Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. It's Saturday, so this is an update video day. I kind of tell what's going on with the shop and things like that, and also, of course, the Camshaft Challenge. And yeah, this week I really did feel kind of like a failure for my son. I feel like I did a bad job teaching, but that's later. The first thing we're going to start with is the Camshaft Challenge. So there's some really good news for that and some other stuff. So, as you know, just to recap the Camshaft Challenge, I said I'm going to pay for 2 dyno days, and that should give me 10 entries entered. So first 10 cams that were here with the $100 would be automatically entered, and those would be the 10. But I said if people wanted to pay for another dyno day, I would do more time. So good news for this is you viewers have come up with enough money for another dyno day, and you've come up with a little bit more for a second, which would actually be the 4th dyno day. So I am going to put a link in the description, so if you also would still like to contribute to the dyno fund, awesome, because then we could buy the 4th dyno day. Now I said I would test as many camshafts as possible, but really I'm going to limit myself to 4 days, because honestly it's 5 days, and let me explain. Before the competition begins, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the different heads on, but one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the piston to valve clearance with the worst camshaft. Am I worried about it hitting? Absolutely not, because when the engine was mocked up, we mocked it up with a solid roller that had 260 duration on intake, 270 on exhaust, and a 108, and it had 685 lift. Now you might say, well, some of their cams could hit. The 2 things that affect piston and valve are duration and lobe separation. So I don't think, in order for you to win, if you have 270 degrees on exhaust duration, I think you're probably going to lose. I could be wrong, but probably not. So if I don't think anybody's going to go over that and decrease the piston and valve clearance by having more than 270 degrees of duration. But the other thing you can do is you could tighten up the lobe separation, and that would decrease your piston and valve clearance as well. So currently, being that it was set up with 108, they could shrink down to like 100, probably even 100. That's 8 degrees. That would lose quite a bit of clearance. But I bet you they're also going to shrink down the exhaust, and it still would be probably less clearance than, or more clearance than what I have currently with this one, just from the way it works. Also, that's a 685 lift. Now, don't get me wrong, lobe ramp rates also play a part of that and other things as well. But what I'm trying to get at is this pistons have valve notches. It's a ProMax LS3 head, and it's the 11 degree one. It's got plenty of free drop. I just don't see it's going to happen, but I am going to check the worst one. And then this is probably going to make some people that are not entered upset, but whatever. Summit Racing said, hey, is there anything else we could help you out with? I said, well, maybe. They said, what about push rods? I said, well, I've already got the push rods, which I've told all of you, that we're going to run the 8.150 length, 5/16 diameter push rods. And I said, but if you want to, do you have a 25,000 smaller push rod and 25,000 larger push rod? So what I'm going to do is also, while I'm checking the piston and valve, I'll put each one of the camshafts in, and I will measure with the I'll measure the push rod length and ask them, each competitor, which one they would like to choose from. So chances are, I bet you every one of them will end up being with the 8/150. But I'll have those others. That gives me a total of 75 thousandths of room to play with as far as push rods. But I'll let the competitors decide on that. So everyone gets the same opportunity. So if you're like, well, you're changing the rules. If you're a competitor, then you can complain. If you're a spectator and you don't have a camshaft here, don't say anything. But they'll still have the option. They can run the 8/150, which they designed it on, obviously, or they can change that. It's up to them. But I'll give them that option, and I'll record all that. Anyway, that's day 1. I'm also going to put a new chiming chain on. Summit also is supplying that, and you might say, why? Well, just because I'm getting ready to run about 20 camshafts if things go well. So going to change that. And then also going to do an oil change as well. And then I'll put the Texas Speed Stage 2 camshaft in there, which is not part of the competition. But remember, that's just kind of our baseline, because we're going to finish on that one to make sure that the engine didn't vary too much from the first camshaft, to the 20th. And then on the next day, we'll start changing camshafts. So point being on that is, that's 5 days. So even if you guys could come up with the 4th day, which I hope you do, because right now I think we've got about $400 towards the 4th day of dyno test, and it costs $1,000 a day. But if they come up with the 4th day, we'll be able to test at least 18 camshafts and perhaps 20. But that's 5 days with me not in the shop making money. And my shop's a one-man shop. I used to have other people work for me, but they don't anymore. Point being is, 5 days of not making money is not a good thing. It doesn't make your wife happy. It doesn't make bill collectors happy. But I'm doing this because I want to test. That makes me, for the record, the third party, because I'm not entering. So people are like, this should be a third party testing. I don't know how much more third party you can get when I'm not competing. I don't own the dyno shop that's competing at, and Gary, the person who does, has no vested interest in any of this. So anyway, I can't just be away for that long. So I know I said I'd test as many camshafts as possible, which I may still do, but what it would have to be is a different session. I can't walk away from work for 2 weeks. I just can't do that, assuming people can even pay for that many days. So good news is, third day of dyno day is paid for, which means 4 camshaft extras going to be added, maybe 5, it really depends. And I say maybe 5 because anything can happen in the first 2 days and may not get to a camshaft on the third day. So at least 4 for sure, which means right now, the total number of entries that I have in my hand right now is 8. So I'm going to recap the people that are entered. You've got Daniel Powell, he has 2 camshafts here, and you might say, why did you do that? I told the other competitors, I'd prefer if you only entered 1. But Daniel sent in 2, and he said, I'm cool with whatever way you want to go. So if you only want to do 1, that's fine. By the way, all the competitors so far that have entered have been cool as hell. It's really the people that are not entered that seems to be more of the raise a stink thing. But anyway, he said, I'm cool with whatever way we want to go. And I said, well, I'll tell you this. I'll enter your 1, but if someone pays, or if we get enough money to pay for another dyno day, I'll put you as the next spot, which did happen. So that's why he's got 2 camshafts here. We have Summit Racing. And then I did make a mistake last week. I said Cam Motions Cam was here. It's actually a guy named Karsten Kafer, and he's from Germany. So for all you people that can't get your cams here, he sent one literally from Germany and got it here. So his is a Cam Motion one, but he's not Cam Motion entered. But Cam Motions Cam showed up. So there's another one. So that's 4 camshafts right there. Joe Carroll's is here. Brian Taylor's is here. I know I'm leaving off someone here. They're right there in front of me. I should have looked. But Brian Taylor, that's the other one. And I know I'm missing one. Summit Racing, there it is. So there's 8 camshafts that are here for sure. And if you, I'm sure like maybe I messed up when I'm recording this, you can go to my Facebook page, Real Weingarten Racing. That's the business one, and it has a list of 8 in case you're like, you missed off something, your count's off. It has the full 8 right there. However, I will say this now too, because this is very, very important. There are at least 3 people that have sent me shipping confirmation that this camshaft is on the way here currently to me. So I could tell you some of them. One of them is Brian Salter. He sent me shipping confirmation. That was next day. So it probably won't be here today, because if they say next day, it's never next day. But that was one. And then Optimum Performance actually sent in, they gave me shipping confirmation, but they're sending in 2. So I might have to work with him about that. But if we have spots, we have spots. So that's 3 right there. And who was the other one? An anonymous one also has shipping confirmation, which would make 4 camshafts. And remember, I only had 4 spots that just opened up with the 2 that was left. So if you don't have a camshaft here, you kind of need to get it. And I should also point out, because I know some of you are thinking right now, what about David Visor? Well, I actually called him yesterday because I was like, hey buddy, people want to see you enter, and your camshaft's not here. And I should back up a little bit. What I did was I asked every person that donated to buy the next dyno day, so for the 3rd dyno day, I said, since you donated, I'm going to let you choose what you want to do with this dyno day. Do you want me to reserve spots for certain people, or do you want it to be first come, first serve? And it was by a vote. The vote from them is the same rule that I've already had anyway, which was, we would love to see Chris Straub and David Visor compete. Love to, but it should be fair. It's first come, first serve. So it's still first come, first serve. So I called David. I said, buddy, need the camshaft, man. And he said he's still working on having it ground. That's all I could tell you now. It's not here. So yeah, that sucks. Chris Straub, on the other hand, he said, look, it's being ground. He's working as best he can. It's still going to take some time, but he offered some money for an extra money for Dyno Day, not to cover the whole thing. But that, I would like to take the money because I don't have a problem with it, but I think some people may think I'm showing favoritism if I took money from a camshaft company to have their cam entered. Of course, some people already think Summit's getting favoritism because they got to use a gift card, and also that they're sending in parts. So, yeah, but at least I know he's on the way, or having one ground. So that's kind of what it is as far as those people that have entered. I don't know. So the best thing I could tell you is please donate so we'd have the 4th day. That would open up at least 4 more camshafts. And hopefully both Chris Straub and David Visor can get a cam here by then. So I know a lot of people would love to see their camshafts here. They're just not. And the people that contributed, they got to voice that, and I'm okay with that because that's kind of how it started. So there you go. And that pretty much does it with that. It should be a fun competition. If you're wondering about the cam cards, right now there's still 8 camshafts that are here. None of the cam cards are the same, not a single one. There is one that it's so weird, I've never tried it. That'll be interesting. Then there's one that's gone way beyond what I thought, and that is also entered. So I think a lot of people think that this is a competition, which it is. Obviously, someone wants to win. Someone's gonna, since there's now 14 cams entered, that person's gonna walk away with more than $1,000, whoever wins this, which is a pretty good deal. And don't tell me you can't you can't buy a camshaft for $1,000. You're gonna actually make money winning. But I would say, talking to the majority of the camshaft people that have entered, so the 8, the majority, and I don't think anybody's even said otherwise, they would love to win. Every single one of those competitors wants to win because winners want to compete and losers want to complain. But every single one, the biggest thing that they're after is the data, which, as you, the viewer, also appreciates. True, you like to see who wins, but what you really want to see is what that camshaft with that duration and lobe separation actually did. What the valve event did as far as the opening event, when it happens in degrees, what that actually affects things. Because for you, the viewer, looking at the differences in the camshafts as far as how different they are and how some are similar, and being able to see the different power curves will be very helpful. I'll also say this, I'm betting several of them will end up being within a few horsepower of each other, even in the averages. Like you probably could almost overwrite them. But there's gonna be outliers guaranteed. So the data for you guys as a viewer will be phenomenal, because awesome. And really, ProMax probably should be paying me this for this too, because when it's all said and done, you end up having a pretty ideal camshaft for the ProMax small or large bore LS3 heads. They didn't have to pay a dime so far. Well, I guess they could. Well, I think I bought these heads. I can't remember if I bought the small bore or the large bore. But anyway, yeah, this is a really benefit for them, because then they can, if I was them, I'd be like, look, I know this camshaft makes this amount of power, and I also know this would make this much amount of power with their heads. That's kind of neat. But that kind of wraps up as far as the camshaft challenge. Check again next week, or just keep up the Facebook page, because I do update it on that one, just as the cams come in. And who knows, one might show up today that I didn't even think about, which would be interesting. So there you go with that. Now, as far as failure for this week, yeah. So I was driving back from Ohio, I'd already got to Kansas City and dropped off Nick, or Nick dropped me off. And I'm driving back to Oklahoma, and I get a call from my son, which his name is Bishop, but so if you hear me call him Bishop, you understand. And I get a call from him, and he's like, "Hey, Dad," and he only calls, he doesn't call to chat, but in all fairness, it's not because he's being a dick or nothing. He doesn't really talk on the phone too much. He'd rather talk to you in person or a text. It's just their generation, which I also understand too. So when he's calling me, I know something's up. He's like, "Hey, Dad, the check engine light's on my '09 Malibu." I was like, "Oh, okay." Me hoping, because it's an '09 Malibu. We actually bought the car brand new. I drove it for a couple years, and my wife drove it for many years. And then we parked it and waited till he turned 16, and that would be his car. Because honestly, I thought he would have wrecked it by now, because he'd been driving for about a year. But no, he's been really, really safe, and it's good. The car is like slow anyway, so he's definitely not racing anybody in a 4-cylinder Malibu. But he calls me and says the check engine light's on. I was like, okay, no big deal. It's probably some sensor, maybe an O2 sensor, something like that. And he goes, it feels really slow. And when he says it feels slow, the car's already slow. I was like, all right, well, I'll deal with it when I get back. So I do the first thing all of us mechanics kind of do, and I'm not really even a mechanic. What we do is we disconnect the battery, then put it back on to see if it clears the light. And it did. So then I went and drove it around. I was like, seems fine. But I didn't think anything much about it. Whatever. And so I was like, he goes to drive it again. He goes, came back on. It's like, all right, we're going to take it to Robertson Tire because they do minor car repair stuff. And I know they could check engine light, and they fixed some of the stuff before that was on it. And they do the tires and stuff. And he's also a viewer of the channel. And they're like, they call me a little bit like a day later and they're like, hey man, I think we found some of the problem. He goes, well, it's a 4-quart slow and it only holds 5 quarts. And this is why I feel like a loser as a father. Because one, I know I taught him how to check well. I'm confident that he knows how to do it. But I did not emphasize how often he should check it. And Robertson's has done the oil change before, but he did not. He's looking at the life. It says oil life on the car. And I don't know why GM maybe didn't put an oil sensor in there, maybe to see what the level is. I thought they would have, but they clearly didn't. And well, anyway, it was really, really low on oil. It only had 1 quart in it, and yeah, it did some damage. So then it was, they did an oil flush and oil change, which whatever. And it still had the code, and it said, hey, your timing chain, it doesn't line up, doesn't have the same phasing as your crank. In other words, LS guys understand this too, but it's not, the computer's not seeing what it should be as far as where the cam is and where the crank is in relation. So it was like a timing chain thing, I'm thinking, but it's really, really slow. So we take it to Team 1 Automotive to repair it, and you're like, why don't you repair it? One, I don't want to work on a front-wheel drive car where the engine's sitting sideways. And if it was an LS thing, I'd probably work on it, or something common, even the Gen 3 Hemi I'd probably work on. But that thing, no. And then for the dual overhead cams, screw that. So anyway, it'd just be faster, I thought, and more efficient. They're quoting me like $2,000 or $3,000 to change it, but we take it to Team 1, they're like, they pull out the filter first just to check. Because one good thing on the Malibu, you can actually, on the 4-cylinder, you could actually take off the filter without getting underneath the car, and it's a cartridge one, so you can literally see the paper and like, man, we got some bad news, man. You got like metal in this thing a lot. So I don't know if we'd recommend this timing chain being replaced, because I don't think this car is going to last but like 3 or 4 more months. That's a lot of metal. So failure on my part. I really, really should have emphasized to check the oil on your old car often. And so definitely failure for a father, because I think every kid should know that. And I have failed on that one, obviously. So now we're going used car shopping. If there's something I would, besides getting griped at about people that aren't entering in the Camshaft Challenge about the stuff that's going on in the Camshaft Challenge, the only thing I think that could be worse is going used car shopping. And that's gonna suck. So we're gonna go look at a car here in a little bit. Yeah. That sucks. You ever guys ever been used car shopping? You're like, nah, man, I just want to look at the car. Well, I'll be right here if you need any help. Like, could you go further away? Yeah. So then they go 5 feet away, and then another guy will come and bug you. And it sucks. And I know you're like, look online. We spent all night last night looking online, so we can go look at a car today. I'm going to also say, whoever that parenting guru said that babies and toddlers are expensive, F you. F you. You know why? Babies are expensive. Teenagers cost a fortune. You have no idea. I would gladly trade this car payment, all the swim stuff, for bottles and diapers and formula. I ain't got nothing on this. I mean nothing. Hell, the shoes cost more than the damn baby formula. So it's like, man, yeah, anyway, they lie. So if you're a new parent, you're like, once we get our kid out of daycare and he goes to school, we're gonna have so much money, we're out of the rough patch. No, you're not. You're gonna hit like sophomore, junior, senior year, and you're gonna be like, holy cow, this is really, really expensive. Because your kid's gonna wanna be in sports, and then every little thing in school costs money, and you're like, dang, this sucks. I'd better pay for daycare. But anyway, that's all I got for today. I'm gonna try, I haven't even talked to Gary Dunsworth yet, see if I can't get on the dyno next week, because I really need to put that small block Chevy back together with the ported exhaust and run that thing so I could sell that motor, so I can pay for this car I have to buy my son, or use that money to build another small block Chevy dyno mule, something with some compression, I think this time, and bigger obviously. But yeah, I need to get that on the dyno. I still really need to put the LS on the dyno to switch to the Brodix BR3 heads. But anyway, that's it. Look in the link in the description. Purchase more dyno donations. It's really helpful so we can get the 4th day. And yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. Don't forget, if you paid $40, I will send you the cam cards the day before the competition. So you get to see them while they're running. While the rest of you guys that are watching are gonna have to wait till it actually gets out. But if you're a channel member, which I highly encourage, it's $150, so it is expensive, but it's for the whole year. So it's year to year. That, every time I go to the dyno, I'll text you dyno results before the videos ever come. Also, you have the ability to call me and ask any questions, and I'll answer them as quickly as possible. Usually I pick up the phone, unless I'm on the phone with someone else. There's also a lot of other benefits too. If there's something you want the flow numbers for and I've got it, boom, I'll text them to you. That isn't, it's a benefit, but it is kind of pricey. But I don't know, I think I've been on the dyno like 8 or 9 times this year, so they've had a lot of them. Especially with the Ford coming up, that'll be cool. I'm really trying to get this Gen 3 Hemi on in January as well, or sometime in next year. So yeah, definitely do that. Then you get all the cam cards anyway. But if you know, like 150 is too much. $40 dyno donation, boom, you're good. You'll get those cam cards before, and as the competition is running, I'm gonna text you the results. At least I'll give you the dyno sheet for each one that's ran at that moment. Eventually, after it's all over, then I have to figure out who the actual winner is. Which the rest of you viewers that don't do that, you're gonna have to wait till I actually go get the winner's camshaft cam doctor just to make sure it's what the cam card says. Anyway, longer video, I feel like, but and it doesn't have as much flashy stuff. Sorry, I don't really have that in this one. But yeah, there you go. That's the update. And I don't port cast iron heads. I'm no Superman. I say that at the end of every video, but some people think that I come off as a guru. It's definitely not true at anything, not even cylinder heads, which I'm pretty good at. But yeah, no Superman. Don't port cast iron heads. Take care.